All right, so let's now trace one example in detail, just by putting everything together. This keyword, method calls, constructor, mutator, accessor, everything together, right? We already did some detailed tracing for the member example in the tutorial videos, so I'll just do another different example about the points. This fragment of code over here. You can also see this code here available as a project archive file for Eclipse. You can also download it, import it, and so play with it using the debugger. I will just do the tracing on the paper. All right, let's now switch to iPad over here. Let me just mention that we got point class and also we got point tester, just console application. You can also try to turn all these into maybe JUnits assertion. I'll leave that as an exercise for you. Okay, and let me just mention something here. We haven't really covered about how you can use API like a math class in Java. However, you can think about math is like a utilities class, and the square root method is simply like a utility method that's static. So that's why we can simply just call use the name followed by square root. It's pretty much like a utilities.square root that we did before, right? I will talk about exactly how you can choose the API method from Java library later, but not this week. Okay, just to let you know. And this formula is pretty straightforward. We'll simply say x squared plus y squared, and then take the square root. So that's how you calculate the distance, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Okay. Okay, and also we got constructor, we got mutator, move up, and, which is also only going to modify the y value. And also we get x and also get y, simply because the x and y attributes are simply just private, right? And let's now trace the code together over here by visualizing it. Okay, let's start with, we're gonna create 2 point objects. We got P1 over here, and also we got P2 over here. We're gonna create 2 points objects. Let's try that. So that means we're going to call the constructor of points, which is exactly over here, right? And since we talk about P1, so P1 is the context objects. So what's going to happen is we're going to okay, let's talk about the right hand side. The right hand side, we're going to execute this new statement over here. So that means we're going to create a point object over here. Okay, let me draw the box. And then what about the structure for the points? Because it's going to be x and y over here. So we got x and y over here. Okay, and also we got x and y. And then so we're going to call this particular constructor over here, and the context object is simply just P1. So that means we're going to replace every occurrence of this just by P1. So what we end up having is P1.x is assigned to x, and also P1.x, P1.y is assigned to y. And what's x and y? X is 3 and y is 4. X is 3 and y is 4. So that means, so this will be 3 and this will be 4. Okay, so that's what we end up having, right? This is like a review. So 3 and 4. And then we know the context object is P1. So that means eventually P1 is going to store the address of this particular objects. So that's what we have, right? Hopefully you agree. And we're going to do something very similar for the second one, the pink objects. So we're going to call the same constructor for the second time. And then this time, every occurrence of this is going to be replaced by the context object P2. So that means what we're going to end up having will be P2.x is assigned to, so you can see x will be minus 4. Right? So x is going to be minus 4, and y is going to be minus 3. And then P2.y is going to be assigned to minus 3. That's what we're going to have, right? Let's visualize that. So you're going to create this object over here, also of the same type, point. And the structure will just be the same, also x and y. Okay, so now we're going to write x and y over here. So I'm just trying to show you exactly how you should trace on the paper yourself, right? Minus 4 and minus 3, right? Minus 4 and minus 3. And context object P2 is going to store the address of this particular objects, right? That's what we have. And now we're going to call the method right now. Let's say, for example, you can see we got P1.getX and also P1.getY versus P2.getX and also p2.getY. So you can see, for example, here, we're calling the same method. Let me use a different color here. So let's say we're calling the same method getX over here, and also we're calling the same method getY over here. It's an accessor method, by the way. But the context object is different. It's basically P1 versus P2. And here it's also P1 versus P2, right? Let's just take one of them. And then the other one you can just see in a similar way. Let's say we talk about P1.getX, right? So we're calling getX over here. And the context object is simply just P1. So that means this will just be P1. So what we are really returning will be P1.x. And now how do we interpret this particular dot notation? As we said, P1 store the address of some objects. Look up the address and follow through and go to the memory. So that means we go to this particular object. And what's X? X is simply 3 over here, right? So that means this is going to return 3 over here. And then similarly, if we try P2.getX, P2.getX, so now we're calling the same method here, but now context object is P2. So this will just be P2. So that means we'll look up P2.x. Look up the address for P2, and we follow through this arrow over here. Think about dot is like the arrow over here. And then X will mention this particular field, which will be -4, right? So that'll be -4, right? You can do an exercise about tracing getY with either P1 or P2 as the context object. I'll let you do that, okay? And another one, let's say we want to call P1.get distance from origin, and also P2.get distance from origin, right? Similar idea. Let's just point to you. So here, when I call this get distance from origin with context object being P1, I'm calling this method over here, and now it's going to be context object will be just this will be P1, right? So that means every occurrence of this is going to be just P1. So what I will end up having will be, let me put it here, conceptually, right? It's going to be the square root of P1.x square, P1.x square plus P1.y and then square. That's basically what you will get, right? And now what's P1.x? P1.x, P1.y. So we're going to use this value over here, 3 and 4. That's what we're going to use, right? It's going to be 3 and 4. On the other hand, when we actually call get distance from origin, the same method over here for the second time, but now the context object will be P2. So that means every occurrence of this is going to be replaced by P2. So the formula that we're going to calculate is going to be as follows. It's going to be P2.x square plus P2.y and then square. Agree? So now P2.x, P2.y, we know that it's going to be -4 and -3, right? According to the lookup. It's going to be -4 and -3. -4 and -3 over here. You can see the result, even though we're applying the same formula over here, but individual x, y here will just be different because the context object is simply just different, right? So you can the precise value you can see, you can try it out on the Eclipse. So that's why it's going, even though we're calling the same method, but because the context object is different, so you're gonna get different values. Okay, let's continue. And then we're going to go for P1 that move up by 1, and also P2 that move up by 1, right? Again, we're calling, let's say, move up by 1. So if we go to move up, which will be here, when we call it the first time, context object will be P1. So that means this will be replaced by P1. So we are doing P1.y plus equal, units will be 1. Okay, so now let's try that. So now P1.y, P1 dot y, and then plus equal 1. So that's going to be 5, right? So this will be actually 5 instead. Okay, and similarly, if you try this, move up the second time, and then so now the context object will be P2. So now we're calling move up by for the second time, units will still be 1, and then the context object will be P2. So what we're doing is P2.y plus equal 1. So where is P2.y? P2.y is going to be -3, and then plus 1. So we're going to get plus 1, so it's going to be -2. And I'm not going to bother you too much, but just to mention quickly. So after this these two mutated methods which I already traced, what happens if we try to do, for example, P1 that get distance from origin, and also P2 that get distance from origin again. You can see we're calling exactly the same two lines over here. So these two parts are completely identical. But are we going to get the same value? The answer is no. Because, so now let me use green over here. Let me just use, let's say, a different blue. Let's say deep blue. When we are trying to do this one particularly, when we're doing this one particularly, so now P1 will be the context objects, but now the P1.x and P1.y is going to be 3 and 5. So it's going to be 3 and also 5, as opposed to 3 and 4 previously, right? So you can see the result will be different. Versus, let me use maybe red. So now when I try to call this one here, so the context object will be P2. So that means I'm actually going to get P2.x, P2.y is going to be P2.x and P2.y. It's going to be -4 and -2. So -4 and also -2, as opposed to -4 and -3 previously. So we are going to get different values. All right. Now guys, hopefully this example here is very similar to how I trace it for get BMI report for your tutorial videos, but it's a different class, different objects. But the idea is really the same. I just want to reinforce for you. All right. Let me go back to the slides over here, and you can read through the insights over here, which I already mentioned. Okay, you can read it. It doesn't hurt to read it again yourself. All right, let's now talk about how you can use mutator versus accessor method, either legal usage or illegal usage. Let's see this. So, cost to mutator methods cannot be used as values. Okay, let's see this. So you can see over here, system.out.print line over here. So what we're expecting, so here you can let's say set weights. Set weights is simply returning void, right? This is like a mutator method, meaning that it's not going to return anything. Right? Let's now take. Let me switch to the iPad directly. Okay, let's go one by one. Okay. Our assumption is we got set weights being mutator and also get BMI being accessor. That's our assumption. Let's now take a look at one by one. For accessor over here, you can see Jim.get set weights. This part over here, you can see this one. Let me use maybe pink actually. This one here, Jim.set weights. We know that from its declaration, this one here simply returns void, and void just cannot be printed out, right? You can think about void, it should be standing alone. So this is not going to work, so that'll be invalid. Okay, and then if you simply say Jim.set weights over here as the right hand side of some variable assignment, that's also wrong, because we know that set weight is also going to return void again, because according to its definition. So we cannot assign void into some variable over here. So that's definitely not good. There's also a cross over here. What about the third one? The third one, we're also going to say Jim.set weight. You can see this method called stands alone, which means it's not really being used as a value to be assigned to somewhere else or to be printed out to somewhere else. So that'll be okay. Right, pretty much like here. So this will be illegal. This will also be illegal, as I explained. But this one here will be okay. It's simply standing alone. Let me write it down. So this one over here stands alone without being used. Okay, so this will be okay. So this will be something I'd like to remind you about using a mutator. So what about accessor? Accessor basically means you're going to retrieve some value as the return value. So for example, here you see Jim.get BMI over here. So this one here is actually okay. However, it's kind of useless, right? You can see here, so Jim.get BMI, we know that it's going to return some double according to the declaration. So that means the return value is not being used. Not being used. So this is actually it will compile, but not useful. But not useful, because you already did a computation to get a BMI, but you're not really using the return BMI value in anywhere, either to print it out or to really assign that to somewhere else, right? So this one here, I simply say cross in the sense that it will compile. So here, compile but not useful. This is what I meant over here. It will compile, but it's simply not useful. Okay. And on the other hand, you can see the other two over here. So we try to use chim.getBMI to be printed out, or we try to use getBMI to be assigned to some other value. Both are actually fine, because it will simply got some double. So the most important cases for you to remember, to really realize is, number one, for the mutator method, you want to know that you just cannot use the mutator method actually either to be printed out or to be assigned to somewhere else. And also for the accessor method, you better not simply call that without using it, right? So that's about the legal versus illegal usages for the two kinds of methods I want to mention to you. All right, you can go over the slides. That's exactly the same. Okay, finally, I would like to talk about how you can design the parameters for your methods. Just a general principle. However, for this course, in most of the cases, you will just be given the input parameters either explicitly or implicitly as indicated in the JUnit test. So you don't need to worry too much. But I just want to go a little bit beyond this course to give you some guidance. Principle number one, for the constructor over here, needs an input parameter for every attribute that you wish to initialize, right? So for example, you can see I will give you two parameters, W and H, both being double, so I can use these two values to initialize the weights and heights. On the other hand, if I want to initialize the first name and last name, I'll pass these two as the parameters, right? That's the principle for parameters of constructor. And what about mutator? Similar, so we will need an input parameter for every attribute that you wish to modify, right? So for example, if you want to, let's say here, if I simply want to move to the x-axis, in that case, I don't need any, if I want to move the current point, so for example, let's say this. So let me draw that very quickly here. Let's say this is my two-dimensional points over here. Let's say my point is simply, let's say 3 and 4. Let's say this is P. If I say P dot move to X axis, for example, right? Forgive my writing over here. When I say move to X axis, so that means I want to move to over here. This is what I want to do. In that case, all I need to do is simply assign Y to be 0. That's all I need to do. I don't need any extra inputs, right? So that's why I simply put it here. On the other hand, if I want to move up by certain units, I need to pass that input value for how many units exactly I want to move up. Okay, principle number 3 for accessor method, you will need input parameters if the attribute alone are not sufficient for the intended computation. For example, let's see this. Let's talk about this. If I want to say I want to get the distance from the current point to the other points, right? Let's say this one here, I got P here. Let's say I want to know what's the distance between P and another points. So let's say what's the distance between P and Q. In that case, I would say P dot get distance from over here, and what should be the input parameter? Because P is the context objects, but I want to know what's the distance between the context object P and also Q. So that's why I need to pass Q as the input arguments over here. On the other hand, if I want to know what's the distance between P and the origin, because the origin is always 0, 0. In that case, I don't need to pass that as an input. So that in that case, I can simply say P dot get distance from origin, right? That's something we did before. You can see the difference is, in one case, you do need some input parameters to know P into another points. On the other hand, here, I can simply just leave it empty because the target point I always know is going to be 0.00, the origin. Right? So just some example here to show you so you can get some idea. All right, so that's about, so far we basically cover everything about your something that's somehow covered by your week number 6 tutorial videos, and I just try to complement that particular tutorial by mentioning all the important points. Right, review all the basics, and then we'll speak about quickly to finish off the this week's lecture by talking about reference aliasing.